Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, we are going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, December the 1st. We got a 9-game Wednesday slate. As always, guys, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each game on the slate and kind of break down each team, give my early thoughts, what does stand out to me looking at the slate on Tuesday night. Now, this is one of those days where it's really hard to go too in depth on this slate just because we really need some news. There's so many guys questionable as a first look. Jimmy Butler, Jaylen Brown, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Edwards, Porzingis, Tyler Hero, Miles Turner. Like all these guys are questionable. For the most part, like all these. If these guys get ruled out, that's just going to completely change the slate. It's going to change who you're rostering, how you're kind of approaching things. So we're going to have to wait and see, when it comes to all this news. I'll do my best to try and give, what I like at first look, kind of talk through who would benefit if, all these guys are out, how we would be approaching things then. But you're going to want to pay attention to the injury report here. The slate's probably going to change from now till lock. I do, always go live an hour before lock, Monday through Friday. So if you want to tune into the live stream, 6 Eastern on my YouTube channel, I'll be live breaking down the slate once again. Hopefully we'll have a lot of news and we can, kind of talk through that, talk through how I'm approaching the slate with all the updated news. Also, I do provide a lot more updated content on Patreon. So if you enjoy these first look videos, you want to see more content that I have to offer, my full updated core plays, my positional plays, where I list off my favorite plays at each position, my rankings where I list off my top 20 plays of the day, ranked in order of interest. That's all available on Patreon. You can get in our Discord chat as well. And I also do give some of my favorite picks on Prize Picks each day for Patreon members. Now, Prize Picks, they are the sponsor of this video. If you want to check them out, link down below in the description, or just when you sign up for Prize Picks, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit, give you a free bet up to $100. For those of you that don't know, Prize Picks is a player prop based DFS site, so you're basically just picking the over or the under on players' projections. They have single stat projections, so these are point, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers made, and they also have fantasy point projections as well. Again, you just take the over or the under if you have a strong lean one way or the other. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks and win up to 10 extra money over on Prize Picks. So sign up, use code NOAH, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. And again, if you want some of my favorite plays on Prize Picks each day, I do provide those over on Patreon, which is also linked down below in the description. But let's start off with the Wizards and Timberwolves game. We'll start off on the Minnesota side. So this is one of the teams where it's kind of just a wait and see right now. We're going to need some news on Anthony Edwards. He is questionable with an illness. If Anthony Edwards winds up playing, I think the only guy that I really like from Minnesota is Karl-Anthony Towns. I like the price tag on Towns at $9,500, and I also do like this matchup against Washington. Now, they have been a lot better defensively this year. They're also playing at a much slower pace, but they're still a team you can kind of beat down low. They're not really that good defensively against centers. Montrezl Harrell, Daniel Gafford, both really aren't great defenders, and neither one of those guys are going to stop Karl-Anthony Towns here. On a big slate like this with 9 games, I don't really think Towns gets much ownership. Now, his ownership, if Anthony Edwards gets ruled out, it will definitely rise. It will be, a lot, it'll be way higher than I would expect. But, assuming Ant plays, I would assume Towns is going to be low owned. So I definitely like him as a kind of first look tournament play. $39 on Yahoo. I think he looks like a pretty good option over there as well. He definitely stands out in the spot against this Wizards team that, again, you can beat down low. They're not really good defensively against centers. I kind of like Towns here. I think Ant, if he plays, is okay, but neither one of Ant or Russell, given where their price stats stand out to me, I would just rather play Towns. I will say, though, that if Edwards gets ruled out, then D'Angelo Russell would become a really good play at even at $8,400, and Malik Beasley would probably be one of the better value plays on the slate. Malik Beasley is already getting around 30 minutes a night off the bench with Patrick Beverley out. If Ant were to be out as well, you would probably see Malik Beasley start, and he would probably play 35, 36 minutes, and at $4,500, he'd be a really strong value play. But yeah, we're going to have to wait and see if Ant plays or not. If he's in, I think Towns is a good play regardless. If he's out, I think Towns is a great play, and then I think Russell's a really good play as well, and I do like Malik Beasley for value. Probably not going to anyone else, though, on Minnesota. Vanderbilt, McDaniels are both questionable. Even if they're out, I don't think that changes too much on a 9-game slate. I don't think I'd be going to guys like Taurean Prince or Naz Reid or really anyone else. So we can move on to the other side, talk about the Wizards. The Wizards, not a team I really have much interest in. Given the pricing on DraftKings, these guys are all priced where they should be. There's no standout plays here. Just not really going to roster many Wizards on a big slate like this, given where the pricing's at. I will say that, Daniel Gafford, Montrezl Harrell have been splitting the center minutes basically all season. Last game, you had 22 minutes for Gafford. I think Harrell played 21 minutes, I do believe. Yeah, 21 minutes. Lately the minutes have kind of been trending up for Gafford. We've seen him play 27 minutes, 27 minutes in 2 of his last 3 games. Does that continue? I don't really know. This matchup against Towns, you worry about foul trouble here. Gafford is a guy that does struggle with fouls, and going up against Towns, he could definitely pick up some fouls quickly. But if he stays out of foul trouble, I think he does play like 24, 25 minutes. He's an okay play. But on a 9-game slate, there's no standout plays from Washington, I don't think. So we can move on to the next game, talk about Atlanta and Indiana. So Atlanta today, they're a team I kind of do like, especially for value. We're going to talk about in a second. But starting off with the top guys, Trae Young, Clint Capella, John Collins. None of these guys, given where they're priced at, again, like none of them stand out as top plays for me. Obviously Trae Young has tournament upside. He can put up a big game any night, but 9,800 feels priced probably where he should be on this slate. Clint Capella's been crushing lately, but now his price has gotten up to 8,500. Not as high on Capella now. I still think he can go for 50 DraftKings points and still do really well. It's just, where his price at now is just, he's not going to be someone I go out of my way to play. And then John Collins, I rarely play John Collins on a big slate like this. I doubt he even makes my player pool. I do want to talk about some value, though, from Atlanta. So we know that Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to be out for this game. We know DeAndre Hunter remains out as well. And also Cam Reddish is a game-time decision. He's questionable. So even if Cam Reddish plays or not, even if he plays, I think Kevin Huerter is going to stand out as one of the better value plays. He's only 4,400 on DraftKings. He's pretty cheap. And on Yahoo, he does look really good over there. He's super cheap on Yahoo, only $11. We saw him start last game. He's been starting in place of Hunter. And I think, he's going to continue to start while Hunter and Bogdan are both out. And he played a ton of minutes last game. Now, I know Cam Reddish got hurt, only played like 7 minutes, but even if Cam Reddish would have played that game, I still think he would have got pretty big minutes from Kevin Huerter. 38 minutes last game. Wasn't very productive, but, this is what we want to see. We want to see big minutes. He didn't shoot the ball that well. Kevin Huerter normally is a pretty good shooter. He does usually shoot the ball better than he did last game. At 4,400, without Bogdan, without Hunter, potentially without Reddish as well, Kevin Huerter definitely is going to be in line for a lot of minutes. And at 4,400, I think he, as a first look value play, he does stand out as someone I'll be looking to for cheap. Now, we'll have to wait and see what other news we get. There could maybe be better value open up as the day goes on. Again, I'll be live streaming an hour before lock on my YouTube channel. We can kind of talk through the slate once again if any news comes out during the day. But for now, I do like Kevin Huerter as a value play. And even Cam Reddish, if he winds up playing, without Bogdan, there should be more minutes available for him. Since he's coming off the bench, he's a little bit riskier. But I think at 3,400, he'd be a viable dart throw on this slate. But that's it for Atlanta. Now on the Pacers side, Sabonis and Brogdon, I kind of like on the slate. Now we're going to have to keep an eye on the status of Miles Turner. So Miles Turner was out last game, and we saw Sabonis go absolutely nuclear. Played 36 minutes, had a triple-double, 66 DraftKings points for Sabonis. He wound up starting at center in that game, and I'm assuming he would probably start at center once again here against Atlanta. This matchup against Atlanta, not nearly as good, but when Sabonis does start at center, when he gets all of his minutes at center, he is very, very productive. He was very productive last game. Again, had a massive triple-double. 9,400 for Sabonis. Even though his price tags come up a lot, I think he would still be a pretty good option if Miles Turner remains out. And then Malcolm Brogdon as a mid-range guard play, I do like quite a bit. He's going to get big minutes if the game's close. Brogdon's, his floor has been somewhat low this year. We've seen him have a lot of disappointing games, but he still does have a pretty high ceiling. If he's going to play near 40 minutes, if it's a close game, I mean, we could definitely see Brogdon go for 45, 50 DraftKings points. So I do like him in the mid-range. Karis LeVert, fine. He's been really, really bad this year, but 5,400 if he plays like 34 minutes, I mean, that's probably too cheap for LeVert. Even though he hasn't been very productive this year, I still think he has enough upside to, be a good play at 5,400, especially if he plays like 34 minutes again. And then we do get some value from Indiana too. So TJ McConnell started last game in place of Turner. They moved Sabonis down to center. I'm assuming McConnell would start again if Turner's out. McConnell's only 4,400. He played 34 minutes last game. Wasn't too productive, only had 20 DK points, but I would definitely like him for value if Turner is out again. And we also know that Justin Holiday is going to be out. And this is kind of important, not because Justin Holiday is like he's not really a high usage player or anything, but he does play a lot of minutes. I mean, you look over his last 5 games, he's played at least 22 minutes. He's played 35, 39 minutes in 2 of his last 5. These minutes are going to have to go somewhere. I think, this should secure LeVert for bigger minutes. I think LeVert's going to play 30-plus minutes again. And I think Chris Duarte is going to play a ton. I mean, Chris Duarte, already has been getting pretty good run off the bench, but I think it's pretty likely that he moves into the starting lineup now, with Holiday out, because Holiday has been starting. I'm assuming Duarte will be the guy that replaces him in the starting lineup. I'm assuming Duarte plays around 30 minutes, if not more. He's kind of a scoring dependent player, but he's been pretty productive this year with the Pacers. He's been close to a fantasy point per minute player. He's only 4K. Again, we'll have to wait and see what other value opens up as the day goes on, but I do think Chris Duarte, with Justin Holiday out, at 4K, he looks like a pretty good value play as well. I do like him a good amount on both sites. $15 on Yahoo. I think you can definitely play him over there too. But yeah, this Pacers team, there's a decent amount I do like here. We're gonna have to wait and see if Miles Turner plays or not. But regardless, I think Duarte is a pretty good value with Holiday out, and then Sabonis, Brogdon, LeVert, McConnell. If Turner's out, you could go to those guys too. But next game, we're going to talk about Denver and Orlando. So on Denver, there isn't too much I love on Denver. I think really the only guy I'm considering here is Jokic, and that's it. Jokic against Orlando, I mean, this is a great spot for Jokic. He should be able to cook this Magic team. I mean, the Magic are going to have no chance of stopping Jokic. They've been terrible defensively this year against centers. I mean, in terms of like fantasy points allowed to the center position, they have allowed the 6th most fantasy points to opposing big men, or 6th most DK points. Great spot for Jokic here. If the game stays close, which I think is a little bit more likely given they're playing in Orlando, it wouldn't be surprising to see Jokic go for 65, 70 tonight. So if I was going to play anyone on Denver, it would definitely be Jokic. I'm probably not going to consider anyone else, though, on this Nuggets team, given everyone else was priced up for when Jokic was out. Now, on the Orlando side, there's kind of some stuff we got to talk about here. So Cole Anthony expected back. He's been out for a while. 7,900. Doubt I go to Cole Anthony on this slate. We don't really know if he's going to be on any sort of minutes limit or not. He's not on the injury report. I'm assuming he'll be full go, but he is coming back from an ankle injury. There could maybe be some limitations on him, even if he plays. Don't love the matchup against Denver. Don't love the price tag either. The bigs I don't really like either. Everyone like Bamba, Carter, Wagner, their prices have all gotten to a point where I don't think they really stand out. But we do need to talk about some of the guards. So Jalen Suggs is going to be out. And I think with Jalen Suggs out, the most likely scenario is that we do see Gary Harris move into the starting lineup. I'm not going to play Gary Harris, but he probably does play like 30, 32 minutes. He's an okay value play, revenge game against his former team, fine at 3,700. I think RJ Hampton, though, is the guy that, kind of offers a little bit of upside. Now, with Cole Anthony back, I don't know how many minutes Hampton really plays, but I think he does at least see like 20 to 22 minutes without Jalen Suggs. And obviously, if this game gets ugly, if it turns into a blowout, we've seen they will play RJ Hampton in blowouts. So, we'll have to wait and see, but I think at 3,600, he's an okay value play. I don't expect him to play like huge minutes, but I think if this game goes south, if it's a blowout, we could definitely see Hampton play more. If Gary Harris just if he's not playing well, we could definitely see Hampton play more. I'm assuming Harris will start. If Hampton winds up starting, then I would really, really like Hampton for value. But we're gonna have to wait and see on that starting lineup. I think Hampton will see a little bit of increased minutes though with Suggs out, and then maybe you see a little bit more run for Terrence Ross as well. Probably plays like 26, 28 minutes. He's 3,200. Again, he's an okay value play. I'm not going to be loading up on any Magic guys today, but I think, RJ Hampton, Terrence Ross, there's going to be some more minutes available for these guys with Jalen Suggs out. It's just, I don't think they have a high minute ceiling given that Cole Anthony's back. Now, if Cole Anthony were to be out too, then I would love these guys. But now that Cole Anthony's back, Cole Anthony's going to get big minutes, which is going to take away a little bit from those guys. But that's kind of my breakdown of the Magic. We can move on to the next game, talk about the Celtics and the Celtics and the Sixers. So this is a game that should be pretty fun to watch. I'm pretty sure it's on national TV, but I don't think for DFS it's going to be a game I really load up on. On the Sixers side, I think the only guy I'm really considering today is Joel Embiid, and even on this slate, I don't think Embiid really stands out. Don't love the matchup against Boston. I'd rather pay down, go to Cat in a better spot. I'd rather pay up for Jokic, who's in a great matchup against Orlando. I think Embiid will be really, really low owned. So if you want to play Embiid in tournaments because he's going to be low owned, I mean, go for it. But don't love him and don't really like any Sixers in general today. Now on the Boston side, you're going to have to wait and see if Jaylen Brown plays. Jaylen Brown, I think, has been questionable for he's basically been questionable every game since coming back, and I think he's played in just about every game. So I'm expecting Jaylen Brown to play. If by some chance he gets ruled out, that would definitely benefit guys like Jason Tatum, Dennis Schroeder. I think they're probably priced where they should be. I don't know if they'd be standout plays, but they would definitely become a little bit more viable if Brown were to play, or if Brown were to be out. If Brown does play, then I don't know if I love anything from Boston. Really, I think you're just kind of looking at tournament plays here. You're going to get really low ownership on Tatum today, I would assume. If you want to play Tatum in tournaments at low ownership, I'm fine with it, but don't think he really stands out here. And in general, this game is one I'm just not that interested interested in for DFS. So we can move on to the next game, Cleveland and Miami. On Cleveland today, Jared Allen at the top here, 8,100. Look, Jared Allen's been crushing. He's been crushing lately. He's been, super, super consistent, 40-plus DK points in 4 straight games. But now he gets a really tough matchup against Miami. Miami's been one of the best defensive teams this year. They're one of the best defensive teams against centers. Bam Adebayo is a really good defender. It's a really scary spot for Jared Allen. I'm probably going to be off of him, given the tough matchup. There's also a little bit of blowout risk in this game, especially if, Miami comes into this game at full strength. Again, we're going to have to pay attention to their injury report. They have a lot of guys questionable, but I don't think I'm going to be too heavy on really anyone on Cleveland. It's just on the road against Miami. This is one of the worst matchups possible. The price tags on all these Cleveland guys feel probably, they're correct. I don't think there's any guys on Cleveland that stand out as being too cheap. So Cleveland, a team I'm not too high on this slate. On the Miami side, we're going to just have to wait and see here. Miami is definitely going to be one of the focal points of the slate, depending on who winds up getting ruled out, if any of these guys do. So Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero are all questionable right now. Tyler Hero is probable, so he's expected to play, but I think Bam is questionable, and I think Jimmy's questionable as well. Yeah, Jimmy's questionable. So Jimmy and Bam are both questionable. If they are both out, love Kyle Lowry. Would love Tyler Hero as well. Even, at their price points, even above 7K, just the entire offense is going to run through Lowry and Hero. Those guys would be great plays if Bam and Butler are out. And then Dwayne Dedmon would be a really strong value play. Now, I think he's also questionable. Yeah, he's also questionable. But he would be a really good value play if he winds up playing and Bam gets ruled out. Now, if Bam and Dedmon are both out, then we'd have to wait and see what they do with the starting lineup. I'm assuming that Yurt7 would start at center. He would be a really strong value play. But man, this Miami team is just so tough to break down right now, just because we're gonna need news on Jimmy and Bam, because obviously these are two guys that just can completely change the slate if they are ruled out. If everyone winds up playing for Miami, like if Jimmy, Bam, Hero, if they're all playing, I don't really like anything on Miami, just given where everyone's priced at. So it's just a wait and see here. We'll have to wait and see if Jimmy and Bam play. If they're out, we kind of know who benefits, who to go to. There would definitely be a lot of good plays from this Miami team if those two guys are out. But we can move on to the next game, talk about Charlotte and Milwaukee. So this is one, I'm a little bit worried about with blowout risk. I don't know what the spread is on this game. I'd assume Milwaukee's pretty big favorites here. They're favored by 8.5. This game does have a little bit of blowout risk, but I think if it stays close, you could see a decent game from LaMelo Ball. Milwaukee this year has been a relatively fast-paced team. They are playing at the 8th fastest pace in the league, and Charlotte's playing at the 3rd fastest pace. Now, Milwaukee defensively, they're pretty good defensively, but I think the pace of this game, I think this will be a very fast-paced game, so I think you should see a lot of possessions, should see a lot of points scored. LaMelo in tournaments, obviously you could go there. LaMelo has a ton of upside. We've seen him put up 50, 60 DK points. He can do that any night. I will say this matchup's a little bit tougher, but LaMelo as a tournament play, I'm totally on board with. LaMelo is someone I always have interested in tournaments, and usually on bigger slates, that's when he's really good tournament play, because usually he gets really low ownership on bigger slates like this. Outside of LaMelo, though, I don't think I love too much else on Charlotte. Like Bridges and Rozier at their price tags, not really big fans of them. I think Gordon Hayward is just a mid-range option, totally fine. He's going to play 35, 36 minutes. He's probably going to score 30 to 35 DK points. He feels like someone you'd be playing in cash games. He feels like a pretty safe play in tournaments. I don't really know what his ceiling is, what his upside is. Don't think I'd be playing him too heavy in tournaments, but for cash, I think he'd be a totally fine play. Kelly Oubre should continue to get pretty big minutes off the bench. Without Mason Plumlee, we've seen him really get a lot more opportunity coming off the bench. They've just been running, some small ball lineups. Oubre's played over 30 minutes in 3 of his last 4 games. Probably would have played over 30 minutes in that Minnesota game had it been close, but it was a blowout. If we're going to continue to get 30-plus minutes from Kelly Oubre off the bench, 5,400, definitely in play. Not a standout option, but viable. And then last game, they decided to move P.J. Washington to the bench. I have no idea, but I have no idea why, but they started Nick Richards at center last game. And Nick Richards literally played like 7 minutes, and then he didn't play the rest of the game. P.J. Washington still played 32 minutes off the bench. I don't know why they why they brought him off the bench if they were just going to play him big minutes, but if P.J. Washington starts, I think he's a good value. 5,100. He's going to get probably 30 to 35 minutes. I worry a little bit about the matchup. He might see some Giannis. Giannis might be driving to the basket. There's always a risk with foul trouble when you have Giannis driving to the basket. But P.J. Washington, when Plumlee's been out, the minutes have been there, especially the last 2 games. The production's kind of been a little inconsistent, but at 5,100, he's still in play for me, especially if he moves back into the starting lineup, I would feel a little bit better about him. Even if he comes off the bench, I think the minutes will still be there. And again, like Nick Richards started last game, but he played 7 minutes, so I would not play Nick Richards even if he starts again. So I think that's it for Charlotte. Now moving on to the Milwaukee side, it's a great spot here for Milwaukee. Charlotte this year, really, really bad defensively. They've been playing at a fast pace as well. Getting to face Charlotte is one of the best matchups you can get this season. So it's a great spot for Giannis. This is a spot where Giannis should absolutely crush. I mean, Charlotte literally has nobody to stop him. Miles Bridges, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, none of these guys are going to stop Giannis. I mean, there's nothing that's going to keep Giannis from putting up 70 DraftKings points today. It's just a matter of, 12-1. Can you stomach paying this price tag for him? We're going to have to wait and see what kind of value we get as the day goes on. If we do get a lot of value, I think Giannis is always going to be a top pay-up option just because his floor is so high, and we know he has a very high ceiling as well. Again, I worry a little bit about blowout here, but I think if this game does stay close and Giannis plays his full minutes, he has massive upside against this really bad Charlotte defense. So I definitely like Giannis on this slate. I'm not too high on anyone else on Milwaukee, though. Middleton, Drew, and Portis, where they're all priced at, they don't really stand out, and that's kind of the same for, the rest of these Bucks guys. It's just Giannis for me, and I think that's it for Milwaukee. So next game, Houston and OKC. We just saw these teams play a couple days ago. They're going to be playing once again. Christian Wood, 8,900. He's been great so far this year against the Thunder, and especially as of late. Last 2 games for Christian Wood, 63 and 60 DraftKings points, and he's played pretty big minutes as well. 41 minutes in overtime against Charlotte, and then 31 minutes last game against OKC. I mean, the price tag is way up there at 8,900, but I think Christian Wood, he should just continue to feast. This is a guy that is really, really productive on a point-per-minute basis. He started off the year really slow, but we've really seen Christian Wood kind of turn on lately. In a matchup against OKC, one of the worst defensive teams, a team that they've allowed the 5th most fantasy points to centers this season. It's a great spot for Christian Wood. We saw him do really well when these teams just played a couple of days ago. It would not be surprising to see Christian Wood have another big game. Only thing that keeps me a little bit hesitant on him is just the price tag. He's up to 8,900 now, but I still think he's a really good play. I think Kevin Porter Jr. at 7,400 is still a really good play too. I like Kevin Porter Jr. quite a bit on both sides. I think on Yahoo at $26, he looks like a really good play over there. I think both these two guys, Christian Wood and KPJ, are once again pretty strong plays, even with their price tags coming up. So, like Christian Wood, Kevin Porter Jr. has also been great these last 2 games. 54, 49 DraftKings points. He's been playing a ton of minutes. We've seen him be really productive without Jalen Green. And Jalen Green, going to be out for, I think, a couple weeks. So we're going to see KPJ probably just continue to crush every night, and the price tag is just going to keep going up. Would not be surprising if in a week from now he's like 8K, 8,500, just because we've seen it. He's a really productive player when he's on the floor. He's got triple-double upside. I mean, against Charlotte, he was 2 rebounds shy of a triple-double. Last game against OKC, he actually did get a triple-double. And I think I saw a clip on Twitter. The rebound, the ball went up in the air for the rebound, and his teammates literally tipped the ball to him. They wanted KPJ to get the triple-double, so they literally let him get the rebound. It was kind of funny. If you played KPJ last slate, you were happy about that. I definitely was. I think KPJ is a really good play once again. He crushed against OKC last time these teams played. Without Jalen Green, there's going to be a ton of opportunity for KPJ. He should continue to play a ton of minutes, be really productive. He's got triple-double upside. Like him a lot, like Christian Wood a lot. And then I think these other guys are viable too, like Jayshawn Tate. Probably plays around 30 to 35 minutes if it's a close game. He's been pretty productive lately. Without Jalen Green, his production has also seen a big spike these last 2 games, 28 and 36 DK points. Eric Gordon should continue to start, probably play around 30 minutes. A little bit more up and down. His production this year has kind of fluctuated, but when he is in the starting lineup and when he is playing 30, 35 minutes a night, he's got upside at 5,100, so he's viable too. And I think that's probably it for Houston. I doubt I'm going to go to Garrison Matthews, even though he's starting. He played 32 minutes last game, but he's just a really, really score-independent player. He has to hit a lot of shots to really get there, just because he's not going to get any rebounds. He's not going to get any assists. He shot the ball really well last game, and he still only scored 25 DraftKings points. I just don't really know if Garrison Matthews has enough of a ceiling to be a guy I'd want to roster, in tournaments or anything. I think the standout plays from Houston for me are KPJ and Christian Wood, and I think Jayshawn Tate's a good play as well, and I think Aaron Gordon is viable too. Now on the OKC side, I don't like nearly as much here. I think for me it's really just SGA, and that's it. SGA 8,300, fine mid-range option at guard. Houston, I would say this is a pretty good matchup against Houston. Houston's been playing at the fastest pace in the league so far this season, and in terms of defensive rating, I mean, they're not a great defensive team. They've been a little bit better than I thought where they're on defensive rating. So yeah, they're about middle of the pack in defensive rating. But the pace of this game, especially given how fast Houston plays, this is a big time pace up spot for OKC. So I think SGA in tournaments, fine option, not a standout play, but if I had to play anyone on this Thunder team, it would be him. The rest of the Thunder, though, I'm not really on given where they're all priced at. So we can move on to the next game, the Pelicans and the Mavs. So the Mavs are another team on this slate, kind of tough to break down right now until we get an update on Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis is questionable for this game. If he gets ruled out, I don't think that really matters for Luka. I think Luka's numbers with Porzingis off the floor have actually been worse a little bit. I wouldn't, my stance on Luka would not change if Porzingis is out. I think if Porzingis gets ruled out, though, that would definitely make a guy like Maxi Kleber look like a pretty decent value play. There's a chance he would start, probably would play around 30 to 35 minutes. Normally not a guy that really offers much upside, but he's been a little bit better per minute this year. He's been a little bit more productive than we have seen in the past. I think Kleber at 4,300 would be an okay value play. I think there'd be more minutes available for Jalen Brunson off the bench. At 5K, I would have a little bit of interest in him. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. would maybe see a little bit more usage as well. For 5,500, he'd be a fine play too. And then Luka, you could always go to. I don't think Luka's like a priority pay-up option for me today. I probably would rather play Jokic. I think I'd rather save salary and play like Towns. Probably would rather play Giannis too. But Luka's always playable just because we know the upside's there. But if Porzingis winds up sitting, I definitely like Brunson, Maxi Kleber, and then Tim Hardaway I think get a boost as well. If Porzingis plays though, I don't really like too much from Dallas outside of Luka as just like a low on tournament play. Now on the Pelicans side, you got J-Val at 9,200. I definitely like this spot for J-Val, especially like if Porzingis winds up sitting. He's going to see a lot of, Willie Cauley-Stein, Moses Brown, Maxi Kleber. These are matchups that J-Val should be able to crush in. I know that the Mavs have been pretty bad defensively against centers this year. They've actually allowed the second most DK points to opposing centers so far. It's a great spot for J-Val. He's coming off a massive game against the Clippers. He did pretty well against Dallas earlier this season, 43 DK points in 33 minutes. The price tag's up to 9,200. I don't think he stands out as like a top play, but definitely someone I'd be going to in tournaments because we know J-Val has a big ceiling. I think Brandon Ingram still is a little bit too cheap at 7,500. I kind of like him as another first look play. Does stand out in the mid range. Like him quite a bit on DK and on Yahoo, $29. I think Brandon Ingram looks like a pretty good play over there as well. Really weird that on Yahoo, Brandon Ingram is a power forward and on Draftkings he's a shooting guard. That's just crazy to me. Two totally different positions. But anyways, with Brandon Ingram, playing his full minutes right now, we saw him kind of be limited a little bit when he first came back, but he's been getting his full minutes. Going to play 36, 38 minutes if this game stays close. Brandon Ingram, we've seen kind of a low floor from him, but we know that ceiling is still there. He's a pretty high usage player. He's a guy that's going to take a lot of shots. He can get rebounds. He can get some assists. 7,500. If we get 36, 38 minutes from Brandon Ingram, 7,500 is probably a little bit too cheap. I definitely like him as a kind of first look option. We'll have to wait and see what other plays open up as the day goes on, but I definitely do like Brandon Ingram. He's probably my favorite play from this Pelicans team, and I think J-Val's in play too. I think Josh Hart, going to probably get big minutes if the game is close. 5,500, he's a viable play as well. I think that's it from New Orleans. Herb Jones, 3,800, okay value play. Should start again, play big minutes. They probably are going to want him out there guarding Luka. But again, Herb Jones, one of these guys that doesn't really offer much upside. Normally, not a very productive player when he's on the floor. He's just kind of out there for his defense. So even if he does start, he's not really going to be a standout value play. He'd at least be viable though. But that's probably it for that game. We could talk about the last game of the night, the late night hammer, the Kings and the Clippers. So in Sacramento, this is a team we're going to have to pay attention to when it comes to injuries because they are on a back-to-back. Harrison Barnes was out on Tuesday. We don't know yet his status. And then we got word after lock Tuesday that Marvin Bagley is also out. So these are kind of important. We did see Chimezie Metu play big minutes. He played, I think he played like 34 or 35 minutes. He would probably be one of the better value plays on the slate if Bagley and Harrison Barnes are both out, just because at that point they're really thin, at the power forward position. Because I don't think they have any other guys they really want to give minutes to. Obviously Rashawn Holmes coming back, he's going to fill a lot of the center minutes, but Metu's going to play a lot if Barnes and Bagley are both out. So Metu at 3,800 would be the first guy I'd be looking to on this Kings team. And then the rest of these guys don't really stand out. De'Aaron Fox, now that his price is up, plus the matchup against the Clippers, Don't love him. Same with Halliburton and Hield. Rashawn Holmes at 5,800 kind of feels a little bit too cheap. I think he did play his normal minutes Tuesday against the Lakers. There really wasn't much of a limit on him in his first game back from illness. I'd assume he'd be full go today, so 5,800. If you want to go to Rashawn Holmes as a low-owned center play, I'm totally fine with that. But definitely, if Barnes and Bagley are both out, I think Chimezie Metu at 3,800 is going to be a really, really good value play. And Terrence Davis, he's been starting lately. If he starts again, you can maybe go there as well. 3,700, another guy you could consider for cheap. But that's it for the Clippers now, for the Kings now on the Clippers side. Another team that I just don't love on this slate. I will say the matchup's really good. Sacramento's been playing at a really fast pace this year. They're not a good defensive team. The pricing on the Clippers, though, I think it's pretty good today. I don't think there's any standout plays, but Paul George obviously has a lot of upside in this matchup and in what should be a fast-paced game. I mean, there's definitely, you would not be surprised to see Paul George put up 50, 60 DraftKings points tonight. He's not my favorite pay-up option, but still, in play. Same with a guy like Reggie Jackson. Doesn't stand out, but, it wouldn't be surprising to see Reggie Jackson have a good game here in a good matchup against Sacramento. But Zubac, I'm not really on. Eric Bledsoe, I don't really ever play, and I don't think I'm going to be on him either. Marcus Morris, he's been starting lately, been getting decent minutes. Played 34 minutes in his most recent game against Golden State. If he winds up starting, which he should, as long as he's still in the starting lineup, he probably plays 30 to 32 minutes at 4,400. An okay value play, but don't think he'd be a standout option on a bigger slate like this, especially with more value probably opening up as the day goes on. So I think that's it for this game, guys, and I think that's it for Wednesday's 9-game slate. Again, this is one of those slates where it's tough to break things down right now. We're going to have to wait and see, when it comes to a lot of these question marks, a lot of these questionable guys, we're going to have to wait and see if any of these guys are out. If they are, that could definitely change the entire slate, could change, how you approach things. Again, my full updated content is always posted on Patreon. So if you want my full updated core plays, my positional plays, my rankings, you want to get in our Discord chat, you want to get some of my favorite Prize Picks plays each day. That's all available on Patreon. Link down below in the description. You can check that out. Also, if you have not yet signed up for Prize Picks, use code NOAH. They will match your first deposit, give you a free bet up to $100. You can take a look at what Prize Picks has to offer, make some picks for tonight's game. Again, you make 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, win up to 10 extra money. Check out Prize Picks, sign up, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. But that's it, guys. Best of luck on the slate. Thanks so much for watching the video. We'll see you in the next one.